Good evening. That strange sound you may hear in the background are dogs eating or licking away at food frozen inside of Kongs. So enjoy that because once again, I like them more than I like you. These are going to be comments, I'm going to mark the spot here, on my Sheets v. City of Punta Gorda takeaways video. And really, I just wanted to respond to Honor Your Oath because I've got great respect for Jeff Gray, and I want to make sure that I have addressed his concerns because he is reasonable. I'm not at all sure about live free or die people. Apparently, this is Sheets, and I'm not really familiar with him. I don't watch his stuff. I have to apologize for that. You'll have to forgive me, but that's the way it is. So he starts off with, we had no idea the court was this hostile. We found out it's Ian McGuire's judge. He's the guy from Hate the State. He committed felony witness tampering felony. So here's the issue. There is no indication in this that the judge is hostile. This judge does not appear to be hostile. This judge has rendered a well-reasoned decision. You see all these hyperlinks? You see all of these? These are all the cases upon which the judge is basing his decision. It is a well-supported case. He links to the documents. These are going to be the uncontested issues. It is very well supported. This is not the writing of a hostile judge. This is the writing of a judge who has a legal reason for coming to this conclusion. It's the same legal reasoning that I have been telling people exist for years. This is something that your lawyer probably should have told you about, Mr. Sheets, that you were on a very uphill struggle. Who is Andrew Michael Bronnerud? Young and Hungry? I don't know if he's young and hungry, but I would guess that he required payment up front, and he didn't take this on a contingency basis. Call me crazy. They are using it in other rulings already. Yes, you can use this. You can use district court decisions in federal court. It's not like state court, or at least California. You can't cite to other superior court cases, but in federal court, you can cite to district court rulings. He should not have filed the injunction, but we think they still would have been hostile. He should not have filed the injunction. Well, Mr. Sheets, you're the one who got to decide whether or not to file it. You're probably the one who paid the filing fee, so I'm going to guess. The lawyer used to be really good, but has totally lost it lately. He won 6 cases for Jeff Gray. Honor your oath. Well, Jeff Gray places himself, generally speaking, in better positions. You placed yourself in a very untenable position. That's probably the reason why he did better for Jeff Gray than he did for you. I did not go back after getting trespassed. I would have been arrested. You are correct. I did misunderstand the case there. I thought you went back, but you didn't. You went from the city hall to the police station, which was different. So he left city hall and went to the police station, and that's when the officer issued him a trespass warning. So the problem was, well, we'll get into that. So yes, he apparently did not go back after getting trespassed. So good there. I was not there to make a speech. God, what the hell? Sticky keyboard? I made a records request on video. We have Florida Sunshine Law. So the problem wasn't the records request. The records request was just fine. There's apparently no issue with the records request. They actually apparently complied with the records request. In the end, the employees gave Sheets a copy of the ordinance. He asked for a copy of the ordinance. They gave him a copy of the ordinance. They complied with the Florida Sunshine Law. There is nothing in the Florida Sunshine Law that states that you have the right to unfettered video recording wherever you go, or at least I haven't seen it, and it's been a while since I looked at the Florida Sunshine Law, so unless they've changed it, you need to let me know. So he says, I went in with an unobtrusive hands-free body camera. Even the state attorney's office says they are smoking crack and that we have the right to record. Well, I'm going to press X to doubt, but this is an admission that you went in there with the camera. That it's not the style of camera isn't the issue. The ordinance is just you can't record audio or video record someone in the city hall or the city hall annex without their consent. You recorded someone in city hall or the city hall annex without their consent. Ergo, you violated the ordinance. It doesn't say that you could do it with a unobtrusive hands-free body camera, but you can't do it with a camcorder. That's irrelevant. He says, look up United States v. Ian McGuire, hate the state, audit YouTube channel. He went to federal felony dark side big time. He tried to kill me by cop 3 times. That's terrible. And from my understanding, Ian won't be doing anything on the outside of a penitentiary for some time. He says, we the people are the owners, damn it. This is not private, damn it. You're wrong. The state is the owner. The state is working for the people, but it is the owner. The state can buy, sell, wall off, allow access to. They have property rights. Now they hold it for the people, but it's like Coca-Cola. If you own stock in the Coca-Cola Corporation, that doesn't mean that you could walk in to wherever you want and you just go to your nearest Coca-Cola bottling plant, walk in and go into all the restricted areas and stamp your feet and say, well, I'm the owner, damn it. You're not. The people in general own it, not you, but the state has been given authority over that. They can buy it and sell it. They can exercise authority over it. And if you don't like how they do it, well, that's too bad. He says that was all caused by Ian McGuire. Damn it. That's a lot of T's. I don't know what he's trying to say there. But no, you have to be responsible for your own actions. You are the one who chose to go in and violate the ordinance and get trespassed. So he says he did trespass Ian for life. I was trespassed for 1 year, and they have no way to appeal it, no redress. Well, you unfortunately did something to merit the trespass. So it could have been reviewed had they exercised unfettered discretion. Then you could have had a viable lawsuit. But you see, this right here, this thing you did here, this Sheets v. Punta Gorda, this would have been, if the ordinance was overturned as being unconstitutional, then your trespass probably would go away with it. I'm just guessing. I'm not licensed in Florida, but I'm just guessing that everywhere else the government has to have a reason to trespass someone. They can't just do it unfettered. And so if the reason was unconstitutional, then the trespass would also go away. But I'm just guessing that that's how Florida works. He says, yes, that's fucked up. I can record Punta Gorda cops, but not government workers. What the fuck? No, again, you completely missed the point. You can record anybody you want to outside of enclosed Punta Gorda city property. Like, you can't record them in the city hall or the city hall annex, but out on the street you can. Absolutely. There's nothing they could do to stop you. And if they even tried, well, that would be a violation of your First Amendment right. If you're on the sidewalk filming the police or a government worker, you're A-okay. But if you're in City Hall, you can't film the cops or government workers if they don't give you consent. He says, even James Eric McDonough said my lawyer screwed up big time. I don't know who James Eric McDonough is, and it does not appear to me that your lawyer screwed up big time other than taking a punk-ass bitch like you on as a client. because the law was against you, and your lawyer did what your lawyer is supposed to do. Your lawyer did the best he could for you, and that's all he can do. The law is against you. He says, bullshit, other people went there with cameras and they weren't trespassed, only me and Ian McGuire, and I'm not Ian's friend. Well, you know what? Thousands, maybe even millions of people speed every day, and only a small handful of them get a ticket. That doesn't mean that the people who are ticketed can say, well, I shouldn't be ticketed because somebody else sped and got away with it. Sucks to be you, but they had the right to refuse consent. They refused consent, and you didn't stop recording. So congratulations. Live with the consequences of the decision that you made. They do have unbridled discretion. If they don't like you, you're trespassed, period. And that is another completely inaccurate statement. If you're not filming, they can dislike you as much as they want to. They can't trespass you because they don't like you. But if you are filming, then they can refuse consent because they don't like you and trespass you. It's not unbridled, because if you're not filming them, just like the court said, then they can't make you stop. If you're filming the ceiling, as long as you're not audio recording, I guess, because audio recording will pick them up, and the ordinance is clear that audio recording does count. So you gotta work with what you got. Silent recording of the ceiling, not getting anybody in the frame, they theoretically would not be able to stop you. And he said, I don't need their consent to record, damn it. Well, reality begs to differ, because you're fucking trespassed. Reality says you're retarded, and you need to start looking at reality and not at what you wish reality was. He says, you do know a federal judge told the FBI, why didn't you record video? It's just a backup of your eyes and ears. It's not just a backup of your eyes and ears. It can do things that your eyes and ears can't do, i.e. record the scene verbatim and pass that along to other people verbatim. It could also pick up things that eyes and ears can't pick up. It can catch conversations that aren't audible to normal ears. It can zoom in like your eyes can't do. He says, I'm not doing speech, I'm doing a story and getting a records request. Okay, congratulations. You still can't film in there. It is a First Amendment activity to film. Most people say it's speech. You can say that it is freedom of the press. Any way you slice it, it is a First Amendment activity. It is speech by most courts' view on it. It's speech by this court's view on it. It's speech by my view on it. Dude, get the Punta Gorda ordinance. It's completely unconstitutional. It is not completely unconstitutional. This is it right here, and we'll go through it when we get to more rational people. So this is Jeff Gray. He says the Punta Gorda ordinance prohibits unconsented recording on all city property. All city property includes traditional public forums such as parks and sidewalks. This is section 1548. This is what they're talking about. What he is referring to is E, I believe. And if you get down into the middle of E, it says, in addition to being a violation of this ordinance, if anybody who is observed to be recording video and or sound within city-owned, controlled, or leased property without the consent of all persons whose voice or image is being recorded, and such person refuses to cease activity after being advised that such activity is prohibited under this ordinance, such refusal shall be considered to be a disruption to the work of city government. Therefore, such citizen shall deemed to be no longer present within the city-owned, controlled, or leased property on legitimate public business. The city manager and his designees are hereby authorized on behalf of the city of Punta Gorda, Florida, to request any person who refuses to cease the uncontested video and or sound recording to immediately leave the premises. Any person who refuses to cease the unconsented to video and or sound recording and refuses to immediately leave the premises following the request of the city manager or his designee shall be considered a trespasser. Law enforcement, at its option, at the request of the city, may issue a trespass warning notice for this conduct. Now, what you might want to notice is that we started in the middle of subsection E, which you may notice is in the middle of the ordinance. The ordinance goes on through G. What is the ordinance? The ordinance deals with, well, let's see how it starts off. Consistent with decisions of the U.S. Supreme Court. Well, there's strike number one for saying it's unconstitutional, because this has to be interpreted consistent with the decisions of the U.S. Supreme Court. So, saying that it prohibits unconsented recording on parks and sidewalks, well, that is not consistent with decisions of the U.S. Supreme Court, and therefore that statement is what I would like to call wrong. This is not a very well written or well laid out ordinance. Most ordinances are pretty much laid out like shit. But you can see things in here which give you an idea of what they're going for. They're looking at enclosed facilities. The city manager is hereby authorized to manage public access to enclosed city-owned, controlled, or leased property. So when you see down here in E where it's saying what the city manager can do, well, this is talking about enclosed facilities. This is talking about giving the city manager authorization over the enclosed facilities. What is E talking about? Except within the city council chambers, conference rooms, and other locations in which a public meeting is being conducted pursuant to a public notice, it shall be unlawful in a violation of this ordinance to record video and or sound within city-owned, controlled, or leased property without the consent of all persons whose voice or image is being recorded. Well, they're talking about city council chambers, conference rooms, and other locations in which a public meeting is being conducted. Why are they talking about that? Well, city council chambers and conference rooms in the city hall and city hall annex are hereby declared to be non-public forums unless or until a public meeting is convened in such areas pursuant to a public notice. And then all other areas in the city hall and city hall annex are hereby designated as limited public forums, and only persons who are present to engage in legitimate public business with the city or officers or employees shall be authorized. It shall be a violation of this ordinance to be within a non-public forum or limited public forum without authorization. Unauthorized persons found by the city manager as designee to be within a non-public forum or a limit. See, it should be limited. Like I said, ordinances are typically written like crap. Who refuses to leave the premises upon a request shall be considered a trespasser, blah, blah, blah. So if you read it in context, it's very clear that what they're talking about are enclosed city owned property, like buildings, facilities, things like that. They're not talking about parks and sidewalks. The trespassing question resulted from Mr. Sheets walking into a Punta Gorda City Hall wearing an unobtrusive body camera to document a public records request. Okay, so that's great, and you think that should be legal, but unfortunately, using the body camera to record video or audio of unconsenting persons in the city hall is a violation of the ordinance. Why you're doing it doesn't matter. It's like speeding. I mean, like maybe the cop will cut you a break if you say, well, I'm speeding because my wife is pregnant and she's about to give birth. Maybe the cop will cut you a break, but he doesn't have to. He can still write you the ticket and it'd still stick. I mean, it doesn't matter why you're doing it. There's nothing built into the statute to give you an exception for making public records requests. He says, Mr. Sheets submitted the records request and received the records without incident. Well, there was an incident because the city employee behind the counter asked if she was being recorded and told Sheets she did not consent to being recorded. Another city employee walked over and refused her consent too. So you had not one, but two people refuse consent, and he didn't stop recording. That is what we like to call an incident. The city of Punta Gorda then trespassed Mr. Sheets at a later date. They don't have to trespass you right then and there. But in fact, he was a trespasser before they issued the trespass warning. Because as soon as he refused to stop recording, he became a trespasser. Any person who refuses to cease the unconsented to video and or sound recording and refuses to immediately leave the premises following the request of the city manager or his designee, and these are the employees, shall be considered as a trespasser. Law enforcement, at its option, at the request of the city, may issue a trespass warning notice for this conduct. So if If in fact he was never asked to leave, well, maybe you can bring a lawsuit about that. Maybe you could do that. Continuing on, the call floods, threats, and suspicious packages were caused by Ian McGuire and his followers and had absolutely nothing to do with Mr. Sheets. First of all, bullshit. It had something to do with Mr. Sheets because somebody had to see this video and react to it. Second, it doesn't really matter. People don't have to call in and say, yes, I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Sheets. The ordinance was written because of those incidents. Now, it doesn't matter who walks in the door after this ordinance is in place. It is now in place. There is now an ordinance on the record. It doesn't matter who did it. That's the big reason why I'm saying that all these idiots with cameras and a bad attitude are fucking it up for normal people, because you don't have a right to be there and record. You have a privilege to be there and record. A privilege that can be taken away from you. And I know people are getting back, you think recording is a privilege, not a right. Some places it's a right. But the First Amendment is not absolute. Your right to record everywhere you want to record is not absolute. And so this is just meaningless. I mean, you know that there were call floods. You know that there were threats. You know there were suspicious packages. And it was caused by someone. Maybe it was Ian McGuire recording. Maybe it was Mr. Sheets recording. It doesn't matter who. Somebody did it, and now it's a problem. And everybody else gets to deal with the bullshit that the asshole with the camera caused, or the assholes with the camera caused. Anyway, that appears to be it. So I hope I have answered the questions. I hope I didn't miss any from Mr. Gray. I wanted to make sure that I answered his, because once again, I do respect Mr. Gray. Oh, here we go. Here's another one from Live Free or Die. Thanks for telling the truth. Why my lawyer didn't fight this when they mentioned it, I have no idea. It got to this point because he submitted a motion, presumably on your behalf. Like, what else do you want him to do? Do you want him to just like sneak into the judge's chamber and tear up all of her law books so that she can't see all of the relevant law? I mean, he said the city's attorney was pretty. Did he throw the case for pussy? You're a fucking retard. And no, he didn't throw the case for pussy. And that's pretty shitty of you to insinuate it. I mean, that is not a wonderful thing to say. You had a shit case going in there, Mr. Sheets, and you got the ruling that I would have expected you to get, and I don't see any issues with the ruling. And if people say, oh, well, you're just so excited about it. No, I don't want assholes with cameras to restrict my privilege to film. But you guys do it, and you celebrate it, and you think you're doing something heroic, and you're not. And right now, even as we speak, there's a hullabaloo call to action for Johnny 5-0. He probably ran his fucking cum dumpster of a mouth too long and got into trouble being somewhere he's not supposed to be, thinking he has a right to be there. It's the same bullshit over and over again. And it costs everybody their privileges. And it's just dumb. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.